welcome to Create From Within, an exploration of creative consciousness. So before I go into my long talk, I want you all to stand up. Everybody, you've been sitting all day. Stand up, and I want you all to take a deep breath and a big stretch. Stretch it out. So today we're talking about conscious creativity. Keep stretching. And in order for all of us to be conscious, we have to be present in our body. So I invite you all to leave behind anything that happened today, anything that's going to happen tomorrow, and to just be present in this moment. And be open to whatever I'm going to offer you. My intention today is to spark something within you so you can see advertising through a new lens. However, look at you. You can take a seat. Thank you all. So I'm going to start by asking you a question. Well, 3 questions. And if this applies to you, please raise your hand and leave it up. First question. How many of you feel stressed and a little bit unhappy at work? Keep it up. Yep, I see you. How many of you feel like you're here to do something big in the world, but you don't know what it is? Okay, about 50% of you. And how many of you wish that things are different in your job, in your industry, and in the world in general? Almost everybody. Well, you are definitely, absolutely not alone. In fact, according to a Gallup study, unhappy employees outnumber happy ones by 2 to 1. That's a lot of unhappy people. And not only that, but 87% of workers worldwide are emotionally disconnected from their workplace. Emotionally disconnected. This leads to companies losing talent. Can you all hear me? Yes. This leads to companies losing talent, losing money, and people emotionally disconnected by choosing jobs that they're not really invested in. It leads to happiness. So you might ask yourself, why? Why is this happening? Well, I gave this a thought, and I realized that there were 2 reasons from my perspective. The first one is that people are emotionally disconnected from their workplace because they're emotionally disconnected with themselves. They don't know what their emotional needs are, and they think that their physical needs, like money, power, awards, are enough to make them happy. And that's obviously not the case. Now, second reason is that people have this mentality that change starts from the top. That they're waiting for their companies, their jobs, their governments to change. But these things, these systems, are not going to change. They have no consciousness. They were put in there by people. And systems don't change. Only people change. So, if 87% of workers worldwide are emotionally disconnected from their workplace, the first step to finding happiness is to be aware and to be conscious of your emotional needs and prioritize them. It's no longer about the physical needs anymore. And this can look different for every single one of you. Everyone has different needs. But your job is to find out what that is and set out to make it happen. When I was 15 years old, this was in Morocco because I'm from Morocco. When I was 15 years old, I had a vision of me speaking to the masses kind of like today, but on a bigger scale, much bigger scale. I saw myself bringing people together, empowering them, uplifting them, uniting them. In that same year, I saw a movie, but I won't tell you which movie because it's very embarrassing. But this is the movie. It's horrible. But it had nothing to do with advertising. But Keanu Reeves here was a creative director in advertising. And there was one scene of him presenting ideas to a hot dog client. And they were horrible ideas. Very, very bad. But that was enough for me to have my aha moment. Because I thought, oh my God, there is a career where I get to create and speak to the masses. There is a career where I get to share my own creativity with the world, uplift them, bring them together. At that moment, I saw the potential of advertising, and I completely fell in love with it. I saw advertising as a tool to bring people together. Because in a world where we're all in our own little bubble, advertising may be the only thing that we all see simultaneously. Think about it. I might be living in Brooklyn, doing my own things, and you're here in Guayaquil doing your own thing. But if we see the same campaign, it might bring us together in a way. That's how I saw it. And it got me thinking, can advertising be used as a healing tool in society? Can it? Well, a couple of years after that, I left Morocco, moved to the United States to study advertising. I had the vision. And then I moved to New York City to my very first job, and I was really excited. But when I got there, I realized I was in a completely different industry than the one I had imagined. Completely different. And besides the long hours, the big egos, and the waste of money in a world that desperately needs basic resources, I couldn't overlook the lack of diversity and representation in the advertising industry. I was thinking, if advertising is how we communicate to the masses, then how come the people we're speaking to are not represented in the agencies we're creating from? In the United States, that meant women and people of color. And I just happened to be both of those things. So these issues affected me directly. And I needed to do something about it. So I did what I knew how to do best, which is fight back and bring awareness to things, bring people together. So I ended up spending 90% of my ad industry, my career in advertising, 90% of my career in advertising, doing work around these issues, bringing awareness to that weren't even talked about at the time. And while I did bring awareness to a lot of these issues, I received my reality check when I went to the Cannes Lions Festival in 2014. At this point, I was already unhappy, stressed, emotionally disconnected, and I really desperately needed the leaders of the industry to re-energize the passion that I had in the beginning. I was waiting for them to tell me how to solve these problems. I was waiting for them to inspire me. And I was wrong, because I was waiting for change to happen from the top. So my experience at Cannes ended up being a blessing in disguise, because it gave me the most important realization. And that is, the system is too big and too comfortable to change. And change simply cannot happen from the top. We heard about this a couple of talks today that was mentioned. Change that I was looking for had to happen from within. So in other words, if I wanted to do something, if I wanted to change something, I had to do something about it, and I had to change it myself. So after some years of soul-searching and depression, I realized that my emotional needs weren't being met. And I finally said, enough, to the agency world. So I left, and I wrote about it. My emotional needs at that time were to help and empower underprivileged people in America. Sorry, my bad, in the United States. It's a big mistake we say in the United States. My emotional needs were to help and empower underprivileged people in the United States. Especially after this dude became president and made everything a whole lot worse for all of us. So I set out to fulfill those needs. I didn't know how that was going to manifest, but I dove right in. So I started an agency called Majorité, where I pledged to only work with brands and clients who believe in the same values that I did. It was hard at the beginning because I had to hold myself accountable and turn down so many clients because of what I pledged. But after a little while, clients started trickling in, and I started getting business. But even then, something inside me was telling me, this is not enough. You have to go in the ground, and you have to make impact and measure it. So, soon after that, I started I See You Wellness, which is a wellness brand that exists solely to empower communities of color through accessible wellness and radical self-care. So why wellness and self-care? It's because these issues that were happening in the United States were affecting people, underprivileged people, on an emotional level, on a psychological level, and that's the work that needed to happen. So I went ahead and did it. And in this process, I realized that I had a lot more gifts and talents that I even knew about. And I realized that I was not just an advertising creative, I was a creator. Simple. As long as I'm creating from within, I would always have something to do. I would always be happy and fulfilled. As long as I listened to my own intuition, I would always be fulfilling my mission. And that opens up for way more than just advertising work. I want you to know that every single one of you here, every single one of you, is a creator with a very unique mission. This is why many of you feel like you're supposed to be doing something big, but you don't know what it is. Keep searching. You are supposed to do something big. We are all here to reimagine the way we create and work in advertising and beyond. We are all here to make change for ourselves and for the generations ahead of us. If your mission is not aligned with the work that you do, you will be unhappy. Your mission has to align with the work that you do. You must bring your mission into your work, or there will always be something missing. And even if your clients don't have a strong mission, your role as a conscious creator is to guide these agencies and brands to create more consciously. That's our role as a creator. So, I'm not saying you should all quit your jobs. Don't do that. We need you in the industry. And I'm not saying you should all start your own agency, because that was my path. But what I'm saying is, I see a huge potential in the industry. And if every single one of you dig deeper within themselves to find their mission and bring it into the work, I am sure that we will make the industry better and the world better. Because it is time that we bring consciousness into our work. And this is not because it's a nice thing to do. Social work is a not nice thing to do. That's not what I'm talking about. We have to do this because we have to do this. It is time. It is time. The world is changing, and we have to change with it. The way that advertising has been done since the 50s, since it last changed, has to change again to match what's going on in the world right now. So let's take a look at what's going on in the world. Well, first, the world is in crisis. From global warming to human trafficking, slavery, the rise of extremism. We are reaching a boiling point where we all have to become part of the solution. Because these issues affect all of us globally on a planet level. And this is not an advertising issue, per se. It is a human issue that advertising can help bring awareness and consciousness to. We are experiencing a global awakening. People are awakening from all over the world, and they've had it. They don't want to listen to advertisers anymore. They don't want to listen to even governments anymore. This is the beginning of a global awakening that we will all experience eventually, and it will change the way we create and we exist in society. And we may not all be talking about this right now, but I promise you that by 2020, and remember this will be a global conversation. Another thing we're experiencing is people power. Because of social media, people are more powerful than ever. This is the first time in the history of our industry that people can destroy brands with 140 characters. And that's how it should be. People now expect advertisers or brands to participate in the same activism and the same causes that they care about, and to put money towards them. Or they can spend their money somewhere else. And because of all of these factors, because of all this, advertising as we know it is becoming less and less effective. Because people are awakening to old methods. Old methods don't work anymore. So the solution is quite simple. We must release that control and give the power back to the people. Because when we do, we regain our own power. Brands should serve people and not the other way around. We must create with empathy, compassion, and service to humanity. And let me tell you, this has never been done before. And I'm not even sure this is resonating with you all, maybe in 2020. But we are in historic times. This is untouched territory. And it's exciting that we get to redefine how we do our work. Because you have to realize that we are not just creating ads anymore. We are writing history, and we are designing the future. And while we get paid to represent brands, we are born to represent humanity. And the goal is to find harmony between the two. So, can advertising be used as a healing tool in the world? I know it's a big statement, but I personally believe that it can. With the right perspective, advertising has a chance to bring people together and to do so much good in the world. Because we have so much power. And what if we use it to do something good in the situations that we're experiencing right now on Earth? But first, we have to see things differently. We have to replace old ideas with new ones. In a way, we have to reprogram our mind and how we were taught to do things. I have some thoughts on how to do that, some suggestions. First, we must create with the awareness that we are not just advertisers. We are human, and we are creators. And whatever we create has so much impact. We have the power to do so much with what we create. We must create with intention. We can't just say, I just want to make cool stuff. That may work at some point, but we can't do that anymore. We have to have a vision. We have to want to create impact. We have to be specific about what we want to do. We have to create with conviction. We can't say that we don't have power, even in our jobs. We have to be brave enough to speak our truth and hold agencies and clients accountable. And we have to create with integrity. We have to go from, I just want to win awards, to, I want to create so much impact that I get recognized for it. It's not the reason to create. And we must create with empathy. We heard that today a couple times. We can't create from our egos anymore because we want the recognition. We have to create from our hearts because we care about something. We must create with passion. Don't just answer the brief. Add your special sauce and your mission to any brief. Your job as a creator is to take any brief and add yourself to it and make it what you want it to be. Otherwise, you're just answering the brief. You're not adding, you're not making it powerful. And finally, we must create from within. We must prioritize our why. Our why is the reason why we are even here. It doesn't matter what you do until you realize why you do it. The why is what creates impact. This leads me to my next point. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And the golden circle idea is specifically important for our brands and our clients. Because if brands don't function, don't create from their why, they will never be as successful as Apple, for example. And if people are not creating from their why, they will not be fulfilled and happy. So you have to ask yourself, do you aspire to be like Apple, a leader with a clear vision and a clear mission? Or like Microsoft, a follower with a fuzzy vision and inconsistent mission? That's your choice. And you know, the same thing applies to humans. Same thing applies to people. We also have a golden circle, and it goes like this. Our what is what we create with our hands. It's our art, copy, design, code. Anything can learn the what. Our how is the talent, our talent, the technique that we use, our point of view, and the way we see the world. And our why. Our why is what drives everything. Our why is our consciousness. Our why comes from within. Our why is in our heart. People think that consciousness comes from the mind. It doesn't. It comes from the heart, from the soul. So in order for you to create your best, most impactful work, you have to dig deeper into yourself and ask yourself this question. What drives me? What keeps me up at night? What's my life purpose? And what am I passionate about? And then you can bring that awareness, you can bring that into your work consciously. And it might take a while for you to find your mission, your passion, or your goal, or your mission in life. That's not even the point. The point is not finding the mission. The point is to follow your heart wherever it leads you. It won't show you the whole picture, but it will give you breadcrumbs to take you to the grand finale of your life's work. So, I encourage you all to do some soul searching like I did, and find out your why. And no matter what you do, always follow your heart. Thank you.